Somewhere above the marble lobbies of Dubai, one family controls more than 2,200 stores, a retail machine pulling in around $7 billion a year, and a fortune Forbes puts at $5.6 billion. And yet, the man who built all of it slept on the floor. Not once, not for a photo, again and again on the bare floors of orphanages in India next to children who had nothing. He once said, "I live my life like Gandhi. My lifestyle is very simple. I sleep on the floor. I run my life with one key." Think about that. A billionaire with one key. But here's the thing. The floor is not the story. The story is how a college dropout who drove taxis through London at night and cleaned hotel rooms for extra cash turned $6,000 and his dead brother's shop into the richest Asian dynasty in Dubai. This is Asian Dynasty. And by the end of this story, you will see the pattern behind the money that almost nobody talks about. And you will meet the woman who quietly runs the empire today. Welcome to Dubai, the city of gold. 80 years ago, this was a hot, dusty town wrapped around a creek where wooden dhows unloaded spices and pearls, and traders haggled in a maze of covered souks. Then came oil, then came trade, then came the towers. And Dubai became the glass capital of the Middle East in a single lifetime. But here is what the postcards leave out. Dubai was built by traders, and a huge share of those traders came from India. Indian merchants have been crossing this stretch of water for centuries, and today, Indians are the largest expatriate community in the city. From the gold dealers of Mina Bazaar in Old Bur Dubai to names at the very top of the skyline. Now, to be completely honest with you, the richest Indian in the whole of the Emirates, a man named M.A. Yusuf Ali, actually lives down the road in Abu Dhabi. But inside Dubai itself, one Asian family sits above the rest of the money pyramid. Forbes lists their fortune at $5.6 billion. You have almost certainly walked through their stores without ever knowing their name. They are the Jagtianis, the family behind the Landmark Group, and their story does not start in a boardroom. It starts in the back of a London taxi. Micky Jagtiani, everyone called him Mickey, was born in Kuwait City in August of 1952 into a Sindhi trading family, the community that scattered across the world after the partition of India and built shops wherever it landed. His childhood was a suitcase. School in Chennai, school in Mumbai, school in Beirut. Nothing about it said future billionaire. As a young man, he landed in London to study accounting. He dropped out. And this is the part of the story the family never dressed up. To survive, Mickey drove taxis through the London night. He cleaned hotel rooms. He was, by his own account, drinking too much and going nowhere. 20 years old, no degree, no plan, scrubbing bathrooms in a city that did not know he existed. Years later, Businessweek would put him on a list of famous CEOs without college degrees, next to some of the biggest names in business. But in 1972, he was just another immigrant kid in the rain, one missed rent payment from the street. If you had met him then, you would not have given him a second look. And that is exactly why what happened next matters. Because in the early 1970s, the phone rang with the worst kind of news. His older brother Mahesh was dying of leukemia. Mahesh had leased a small shop space in Bahrain, planning to run a baby products franchise, but the disease never let him open the doors. Mickey left London and went to Bahrain to be with him. Mahesh passed away, and then, within about a year, Mickey's father was gone too. And then, his mother. At 21 years old, he had buried nearly his whole family. What he had left was about $6,000 and the keys to his brother's empty shop. Sit with that for a second, $6,000. That is a used car. Most people would have sold the lease and gone back to whatever life they knew. Mickey did not have a life to go back to, so in 1973, he opened the doors himself and started selling baby clothes, cribs, and rattles to the young families of the Gulf. He called it simply Babyshop. One store, one man, zero safety net. And now forget everything you know about overnight success, because there was none. For roughly 10 years, Micky Jagtiani was the shopkeeper. He ordered the stock. He carried the boxes. He stacked the shelves with his own hands and swept his own floor. One man, one store, one key. But while he was sweeping, he was watching. The Gulf around him was filling with oil money, guest workers, and young families. And every year, a few more of them pushed a stroller through his door. He learned what a nurse from Kerala could afford, what a Filipino engineer's wife wanted for her newborn, what nobody was selling. He saved, and he opened another store, then another. By the end of the 80s, the one sad little shop in Bahrain had become 6, and Mickey had discovered the idea he would ride for the rest of his life. The Gulf did not need another luxury brand. It needed good, affordable stores for ordinary families run brilliantly. It is the least glamorous idea in retail. It is also, as you are about to see, worth billions. Then came August 1990 and the invasion of Kuwait. War on the doorstep. Tourists gone, shoppers hiding, shipping lanes in chaos, and the future of a small Bahrain retail chain suddenly looked very fragile. One bad year and the whole 18-year climb could have collapsed. Micky made the decision that created everything you are about to see. He moved to Dubai, a city betting its entire future on trade, and planted his flag there. The new company needed a name. He called it Landmark. The shopkeeper had picked his battlefield, and this time, the battlefield was about to explode with growth. From Dubai, the quiet shopkeeper became an empire builder. You may have never heard of Landmark Group, but if you have spent time anywhere from Riyadh to Mumbai, you have shopped inside it. Centrepoint, the family department store; Max Fashion, the budget label that dresses millions across the region; Home Center for furniture; Splash for fashion; Emax for electronics; Citymax hotels; Foodmark, the restaurant arm; and still, at the heart of it all, Babyshop, the brand that began as one grieving brother's shop. In the late 1990s, the family carried its lifestyle department stores into India, betting on the Indian middle class years before that was fashionable, and India grew into one of its biggest markets. Today, the group runs more than 2,200 stores across some 24 countries, according to Forbes, with around 53,000 employees and revenues reported at around $7 billion a year. Think about the physics of that. A company selling affordable socks and baby cribs, out-earning banks. In 2008, Micky bought a 6% stake in the British high street giant Debenhams, and Forbes added him to the billionaire list for the first time, at around $2 billion, the 16th richest Indian alive. By 2014, his family office alone was managing assets worth around $5 billion. The taxi driver had become one of the most powerful retailers on earth. We are now halfway up this story, and this is where it turns. So let me ask you the question this whole video is really about. If you had $5 billion, could you still sleep on a concrete floor? Be honest, tell me in the comments where you are watching from and whether you could do it. Because Micky Jagtiani actually did it, and he did it by choice. In the year 2000, at the peak of his climb, Micky created a foundation called Life, the Landmark International Foundation of Empowerment. Its mission was not a plaque on a hospital wing. It was slum schools, community clinics, medical camps, homes for abandoned children, and care for the elderly poor across India. The foundation has funded the education of more than 100,000 children in slum schools, and Micky became the main benefactor behind orphanages in Chennai and Mumbai. And he did not run any of this from a desk in Dubai. He flew to India, walked into the orphanages he funded, and slept on the floor beside the kids. No suite, no entourage. He said it kept him grounded. He told interviewers he had no love for money, that he believed deeply in Buddhism, that he ran his entire life with one key, and that his real dream was to give it all up one day and spend his life working in the slums of Chennai and Mumbai. This is a man who could have bought a private island choosing a thin mat on a concrete floor. The $6,000 inheritance, the dead brother's shop, the night scrubbing hotel bathrooms, he carried all of it with him into every board meeting, every negotiation, every quiet decision to open one more store instead of buying one more toy. The money was a tool. The mission was the point. That is what living like this actually means. On May 26, 2023, Micky Jagtiani died in the Emirates at the age of 70. Forbes measured his fortune that month at $5.2 billion. The tributes came from CEOs and from orphanages in the same week, and both meant it. And in most family empires, this is the dangerous moment. The founder dies, the children fight, the lawyers feast, and the empire cracks. Watch what happened instead, because the second half of this dynasty is a woman. Renuka Jagtiani, Micky's wife, had joined the business back in 1993 when Landmark was still a scrappy Gulf retailer. She spent 3 decades building it beside him, driving the group's corporate strategy and its big push into India. In 2017, she became chairwoman, so when Micky passed, there was no succession war, no courtroom drama, no collapsing stock. There was simply Renuka, already at the wheel. Today, Forbes lists her fortune at $5.6 billion higher than the empire was worth the month her husband died, and ranks her among the most powerful businesswomen in the Middle East. Her 3 children are all inside the machine: Aarti, Nisha, Rahul, each one a group director with their own piece of the empire, and the family is not coasting on the inheritance. Landmark has announced plans for 400 new stores by 2027, backed by a $1 billion investment in retail and e-commerce. The dynasty's second generation is not spending the fortune, it is compounding it, quietly, exactly the way the founder would have wanted, and that is the pattern. Strip away the skyline and the billions, and the Jagtiani playbook is almost embarrassingly simple. Sell ordinary things to ordinary families brilliantly for 50 years. Keep your name off the buildings. Keep one key in your pocket. Let the flashy money chase attention while the quiet money buys the street the attention is standing on. In Dubai, a city famous for gold-plated everything, the richest Asian dynasty is a family you could not pick out of a crowd, whose founder measured his life not by what he bought, but by how little he needed and how many children he could put through school. Real wealth, the kind that survives war, grief, and generations, almost never announces itself. Sometimes it looks like stability you never have to explain, and sometimes it looks like a billionaire asleep on an orphanage floor, smiling because he already has everything. So here is your question for the comments. Could you build a fortune for 50 years and still live like you had nothing? And which surprised you more, the taxi driver who became a billionaire or the billionaire who slept on the floor? If this story got you, you will want to see the dynasty that owns half of Hong Kong's skyline and the families behind Singapore's record-breaking mansions. Those videos are on your screen right now. This is Asian Dynasty, where the quietest money tells the loudest stories.